In less than a week, this famous part of London will be heaving with hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world waiting to catch a glimpse of Prince William and his new bride. But would the tourism industry here be better off without the royal family?
The royal family, as I prefer to call them, practically invented tourism.
From where do the royals buy their cheese? I'm sent out to shop like a Windsor.
They do enjoy a great selection of cheese. There's all sorts of variety of cheese. We walk them down there, actually.
And I've got some travel gadgets that let you do your bit for the environment, as well as a camera that puts a whole new spin on taking pictures.
Hello, I'm Fiona Foster. Welcome to Fast Track in front of Buckingham Palace here in London. Now, come Friday, this is going to be a prime spot for watching the celebrations up there on the balcony. And this wedding has been something of a gift for tourism leaders here. A young, glamorous couple getting married with all the trappings of royal pageantry. A match made in heaven, you might think, for attracting visitors. But not everyone is convinced of the tourism value of the monarchy. The souvenirs are ready, the quirky, the funny, the tasteful and the not so tasteful, as Britain prepares for next Friday and what tourism leaders here hope will be a bumper influx of visitors keen to be able to say, I was there.
30 years ago, an additional 600,000 came for the Prince of Wales's wedding, but the world is a very, very different place, and 150 different countries are going to be showing the wedding on television, and we expect many, many times the 600,000 coming to London because of the wedding. And then we hope, of course, staying on to visit other parts of England.
Come on. For Britain, it's the kind of huge global TV commercial that money can't buy. Royal palaces like Kensington, the former home of Diana and several other princesses throughout history, which has been turned into a fantastical enchanted palace while it undergoes a $19 million renovation, view the imminent making of a brand new princess, Catherine, as a chance to reignite international interest in Britain's royal history and heritage.
We're really delighted about the wedding and really excited about what it could do. Obviously, Kensington Palace was the home of Prince William as he was growing up, but also, as the Enchanted Palace does, we concentrate on princesses, and we have them in abundance, not just the 7 princesses represented in the Enchanted Palace, but many others as well.
There's a fire starting in my heart.
According to renowned historian and author of Crown and Country, David Starkey, tourists heading to London next week will be doing much the same as their counterparts did 400 years ago.
They come to London, they drop off at Canterbury first, then they come to London and they look at the Tower. They hear the identical ropey old yarns that the yeoman warders still tell them about the Tower, and they're shown where people are tortured and where people are imprisoned and where they have cut their heads off. Then they take them to Whitehall, and then they take them to Hampton Court, and then they'll go and look at Oxford and Cambridge. And so this is the tourist itinerary, primarily royal, of 400-500 years ago.
Baby, I have no story.
So how important is the British monarchy these days when it comes to bringing in tourism dollars? Well, Visit Britain reckons that the royal family adds about $7.5 billion of tourist revenue every year, something disputed by those like Graham Smith, who campaign for the abolition of the monarchy.
Now, the key question is if the royal family were no longer living in Buckingham Palace, would people stop coming to Britain or domestically coming to London from within Britain? And there's no evidence that they would stop. So, obviously when people come here, they want to go to places like Buckingham Palace, Tower of London, and other palaces and houses around the country. But they would still want to do that if we didn't have the monarchy in place. I mean, it's about our history and our heritage. It's not about the way in which we currently do things.
He cites the difference between the value in tourism terms of the hugely popular and independently run Tower of London and that of Buckingham Palace, the home of the Queen.
Buckingham Palace is only open for 2 months of the year, and it's only a small part of the palace open. And because they aren't open all year round, they have to keep going back for handouts in order to, rebuild the building and do maintenance. So, clearly, if the building is not occupied, it's going to be a much bigger draw, and it's going to be able to generate the revenue that's needed.
Lady Penelope Cobham argues that that's to underestimate the draw of the current royals themselves.
There is absolutely no doubt that people buy people, and it is the royal family's presence in these buildings that adds so much to the interest and mystique of seeing a magnificent building. I think that the numbers would drop massively if the royal family didn't inhabit these great places.
I think that the royal family humanises it. They act, don't they, as a kind of the ordinary family writ large. I don't actually know how much difference it makes in terms of absolute tourism. I mean, people visit in enormous numbers the palaces of the French kings, and there's no French monarchy anymore, but the buildings are so great and so important that they attract people all the same. But I think here it is given a human face.
So who's likely to be coming to see the pageantry and spectacle this time around?
Interestingly, the Far East have shown enormous interest. They're fascinated. Many countries like Japan have a long established cultural inheritance themselves and are genuinely interested in our complete mix in England of old and contemporary offer.
And despite throwing off the royals some 200 years ago, Americans still seem to be lured by the pomp and ceremony that surround the royal family. Like Nicole Matthews, who's leading a special $6,500 royal wedding trip to England from California, to include private tours of the crown jewels, historic royal houses, and Prince William's old school, Eton College.
It was a personal dream of mine to put it together. As an American girl growing up, I remember that feeling of watching Diana and Charles be married. I was laying in my bed in my pajamas as a very young girl and watching this magical moment take place on TV.
Jodie Waterhouse, who's been a royal fan since she was a child and has the memorabilia to prove it, is one of those making the trip.
We're actually going for both the atmosphere and to see the royal family. I mean, we want to catch a glance, obviously, of the royal family, but so much of it is the atmosphere and just standing with people from certainly the UK as well as around the world, cheering on the newlyweds as they pass by.
So why are so many people keen to travel across the world to line this route between Westminster Abbey and Buckingham Palace? Is it about witnessing the spectacle of a traditional royal do, or is it more about the appeal of the young bride and groom themselves?
I think Grazia readers are interested in Kate and Wills, I think mainly because they're quite an attractive couple. I'm not sure there would be that level of interest if they were both really frumpy. They're kind of quite a glamorous new addition to the royal family. I think they could be the couple that make the royal family sexy again.
I think monarchy has always been celebrity. That's what monarchs are. I mean, the essence of celebrity is where you're sort of turned inside out and your private life becomes public. Well, the private lives of monarchs have always been public. They've been on public display. Their private acts, like getting born, getting married, having kids, dying, are in fact their public acts as well.
Get this party started on a Saturday night.
And of course, celebrities or not, what delighted tourism leaders are only too aware of is that for many people the world over, a good love story is simply irresistible.
I think that the royal wedding is definitely an international event. There's also just this interest in sort of this romantic fairy tale. Here's this common girl who did meet her prince and will eventually become the Queen of England. And that's not a story that happens every single day.
And Buckingham Palace has just announced the celebrations and a public holiday for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, that's 60 years on the throne, to take place next June. So tourism officials here will be hoping that this royal effect is going to last for a good while yet. Now let's have a look at what else is making the news in the world of travel this week.
Officials in Dubai say the death of a British tourist in police custody was not caused by the injuries he sustained while resisting officers. Dubai's Attorney General says post-mortem tests show Lee Brown choked on his own vomit. The UK Foreign Office and human rights campaigners have demanded a full investigation into the death. Around 1,700 tourists have been evacuated from Gaudi's Sagrada Familia Basilica in Barcelona after a suspected arsonist started a fire in the building. 4 people were treated for smoke inhalation, and a police official said there was significant damage to a portion of the landmark. And the world's smallest camper van has been launched in the UK. The tiny camper can be towed by a mobility scooter and comes complete with a bed, a kettle and a television.
Stay with us here on Fast Track, because coming up after the break, Tommy Sandu's here to show us how to take pictures with a spin. And forget any talk of austerity, we find out what the Windsors buy when they've got £1 or £2 to rub together.
How much does that cost?
This will be about £700.